We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, we gon' take this slow. We just gon' peel it back layer by layer. Yeah, gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer by layer. Yeah. We gonna take this slow. We just gonna peel it back layer.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Veranda Slowcast. With me is Warning Track.
Hi, glad to be here. Glad to be doing some slow casting after all the normal fast casting I normally do.
That is right. I guess you are. Is there a cast tomorrow that you're to be in?
Yeah. 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. Probably 3 matches like normal. Haven't been confirmed yet, but we're going to be doing like some makeup week matches and things like that while we're waiting for the finals and the tournament of placement, which is coming very quickly.
Cool. Yes, that is right. We are about to be heading into championship season, which is always really interesting. People get really into it, and I actually really like the fact that there's fewer games to focus on. There's really just on everybody's mind is just a few games, where otherwise when the community is just like jumping in and like spectating, the only games that are really in people's minds are the one that get cast or really particular big matchups during the week. But on this one, everybody knows what's up.
Yeah, well, and there's only going to be a few, which means they're going to get more attention, which frankly means you and I are going to get put out of business for the next couple of weeks. They'll be doing slow casting normally, right?
That is right. Yeah, and actually, it's very enjoyable because also we get to, there's a bit more narrative you just get to insert just randomly because it's championship time, and also there actually is a little bit more pressure on people because let's say there's like a dirty 7-0 that goes on someone, it's probably not going to get cast, but now it will if it's in a championship match. So you at least have to play for pride a little bit more, which I just kind of enjoy.
Yeah, it all gets cast now, definitely. All the championship matches and the tournament placement matches, I think we're probably going to find room for all of them. So there's going to be some lopsided matches, and I don't know, that makes it more interesting.
It does. It's basically, they're all live matches, essentially. Well, they're not all live matches in that, like, they're not all live, but they're all live matches in, you don't have the finger on the scale a little bit where we try not to cast the matches that aren't as interesting.
Correct. Yeah, but our fingers on the scale today. We've curated these games specifically. We can credit you for that. And they're the opposite of live, which is to say we are going to pause them when need be. And Slappy's probably going to ask me a lot of leading questions because he's so good at that too. And we're going to deep dive, which we don't get a chance to do on the normal casts. We're going to peel it back layer by layer, I guess, and probably spend 20 minutes arguing about literally one aspect of one game before we realize we're running low on time and we have to hurry through the others. Sorry in advance.
That is true. All right, so first up we have oh my goodness, I should have practiced the name before. There's Ventuskitsune.
Ventuskitsune. Yeah. And the other one, oh, that's really going to give you trouble.
And Rooks.
Rooks. Yeah. I was like, which one's he having trouble with? Okay. Yes,
right.
This is from Obsidian, is it? Or is it Challenger?
This is Challenger. We're starting off with a Challenger game, and so as Track mentioned, there is a little bit of a finger on the scale with the selection. The only thing that really happens, although I selected these games a long time ago when we were deciding between Ballroom and Veranda, so I'm actually kind of excited because I don't even remember seeing what the outcomes really were. The finger on the scale is there's not going to be any instant shots. Let's just put it that way. It should not end in the first minute. Otherwise, complain to Warning Track for not building his searcher correctly, but I highly doubt that.
Yeah, please report any bugs. If any of these matches are below a minute, that means I have something to fix.
All right, well, I am typing out the name into the little thing for a second here because it is such a long name. So why don't you describe the general history of Veranda? So we had it was an old art map. It was one of the third map, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was very early on. It was your favorite back in the day when it was old art, and the general layout is the same. There's a few differences. There's a lot more occlusion, but the actual viewing angle is different too now. It's actually closer to Ballroom, the last map we slow casted, in the low viewing angle for the Purloin in particular. And yeah, it's been with us since SCL Season 3. We have 534 total SCL games played on Veranda. We had over 200 on the old Veranda, though, so we have a bit of a split. And it's been pretty sniper favored the whole time through those 3 seasons, 60% sniper overall win rate.
Yes, it is an NA5 of 8 map, although there is a variant floating out there that Noob is in favor of every once in a while. That's an A4 of 8 with, I think there's a fewer people on it, that sort of thing. But right now, it's a pretty sniper favored map. And there's a lot of missions to get done. That said, it is also one of the maps that there are several specialists on, one of which we should be casting later. Actually, I think we'll be casting another one where I would say that Kaylee is also, while we usually, when we say specialist, we usually mean spy specialist.
Yeah.
But actually, Kaylee is a Veranda sniper specialist as well, and can actually get a few wins as spy. Sniper and spy. But both sides are interesting on Veranda. The one thing that I will say about, I'll complain about some of my other things plenty during this. I think we can just get started. Let me go ahead and bring up the scoreboard and then refresh it. And then I think we are just about ready to go. Oh, let me add the 1 second.
Sure. Yeah, the only thing I'll note here is that not that we don't want to get into the SL stuff too much because we're all about the individual game, but this might affect the actual analysis later. Rooks generally bans Veranda, or at least has several times, but didn't ban it in this match, and Ventus selected it. So this is what the venue Ventus wanted to be playing against them.
Very true. Very interesting. And I would admit total ignorance on this one. I have never casted these players before. So
all right.
This will be very new. Let me get that beautiful Slowcaster banner up and ready. I think I've just got it sized, and then we're ready to go.
Ready when you are.
Okay. Sorry, it's just giving me trouble.
The font stuff is a little finicky, to say the least. Yes.
Yeah.
Look, we told you it was going to be a slow cast, so if you're upset that it hasn't gotten going yet, you really have only yourself to blame.
It's very true. Okay. All right, starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so there was a shot at a. Oh, I was gonna say we might try to time a chaos bug right here, but we end up not going for it, and so we'll just go for a statue opening. Okay, so One of the things about Veranda in particular is as a larger map that you can still see a lot of. It's kind of like Library, except you can still see everybody technically. Like you're going to be focusing on like roughly a third of the screen at any given time, but you can intuitively track your highlights as they move around. Although I'm just going to go Vent. Vent is what I'm going to say. Has not gotten highlight for the statue visit yet.
That's interesting. Yeah, statue highlights are really common here. Even people who don't like to highlight for statues generally, they find it a little hard to avoid on Veranda the same way as Courtyard. Courtyard's the overwhelming example of needing to do it, sort of. Simply because that second statue visit, when you see a highlighted player approach a statue, you know they're done. And the number of people who actually finish inspects on Veranda, sometimes it can only be a few people at most, and sometimes it's less than that. And if you can, nail a spy for a soft tail mission, if you feel you're behind in particular, sometimes that's enough to take the shot.
I like what we've done here as Queen, although I think we're breaking animations just a little bit. Mm-hmm. So right now we're using Book as a way to go in and out of conversations. We're probably going to flirt here. And then the big question is whether or not we try to dump it off. Now, Red Book is an interesting book to try to hard transfer. Usually doesn't work because you usually will remember seeing the side profile. It's just easy to remember because it looks different rather than did I see them at a bookshelf. I know they're at the bookshelf that's the weird one, the one where you actually see the side of the profile, and so
it's easiest to mark too for the sniper. They get the clearest angle.
Yes, and when if we're going back to Red Bookcase right here, I'm probably gonna pause and talk for a second about the angle on the Red Bookcase, but it looks like we are taking a very strange path. I'm not actually. Maybe we're trying to get into that conversation with Double Agent. It's not gonna work.
Banana bread.
We are gonna fake. I'm actually gonna pause right here.
Yes.
So, and the reason I'm gonna pause is it actually looks like a pretty good banana bread. One of my things about Veranda is it is one of the can I not? Oh, right. Here we go. It is one of the maps that has some of the weakest banana breads, but weak only relative to the fact that there's so many people. And one thing that is not usually mentioned about Veranda is these tiny conversation circles. I'm kind of like getting a bird's eye view, and they are the ones that are in the middle, essentially. Sorry, that's actually not true. There's the one that is near the left door on the blue bookcase side is larger. But there's these little itty-bitty conversations, so they usually can't fill up too much, and people move in and out of them. But this banana bread is actually pretty good for Veranda. Now, the
Three
problem...
hards.
Exactly.
Yeah, 3 hard lowlights.
Now we are there's kind of I'm curious what the sniper's reaction is going to be. It's probably just going to take the few lowlights that they have and maybe lowlight the corner conversation with just 3 people in it. Although I guess Twin is actually moving right now. But anyways, usually you take a lot of lowlights when you do banana bread on Veranda. So it is actually one of the things that you need to be more cautious about. You're not going to get the obvious, clear, great banana bread opportunity that you're going to get on Courtyard, for example. Courtyard, you're going to get a banana bread, and it's going to be great. And even on Library, conversations fill up and stay filled up for a long time, but Veranda has these tiny conversation circles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And I'm going to kind of make the same point that I made on the ballroom cast, because this is something that transcends venue, actually, which is that you are looking at hard lowlights, and you are specifically looking at number of reels as a secondary consideration. And in this case, one of the SDAs is alone, that's Walt there, and you can see that the other, the SDA, not the DA, is in with just 2 people. So there's 3 lowlights, very good, but there's only 7 real banana breaders. That's not tremendous. That's pretty good. It helps that the fullest circle has the real double agent in it, and that's probably why they did it partially. But 7 is fine. And this is actually where you might want to revisit that highlight strategy we talked about. We have a twin highlight, for example, and we have maybe some statue highlights here. But it would be really tempting, I think, at this moment to say, wow, 7, what if I just switch up my highlights, highlight all the people who could have done a real one instead? Because that's a nice pool to be drawing from. Not the spy in this case, but at least you'd know they didn't have it.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and press play again right now. But yeah, banana bread is more interesting on this map than it is normally, and that's just something I'm probably going to harp on a little bit, because when you actually have to take those opportunities. Now, given that has happened, all right, we have just joined this banana bread, this conversation with the real DA. And actually, it's still not a bad time. Although, one thing to consider is it's been... Oh, DA leaves, so the point is moot pretty much regardless. We're not going to fake again. Although Double Agent might be coming right back into our conversation circle. One thing about banana breads in general is, let's say you fake, and then... so you fake, there's only like 3 people out of conversation. You go into the real conversation with the real DA, and you fake it... Or, no, I am going to switch gears real quick, because here is the thing I wanted to talk about earlier. I'm going to finish the point, though, on the banana bread is, even if there's still only 3 people out any banana bread, if they're the different 3 people, there's not the cross-pollination, you're still going to get the interaction between the 2 of them is a lot of lowlights.
Yes, the Venn diagram of who could have been in for both or who could have had a reel for both, yes, that narrows it way, way, way down. It's exponential the way it increases, yes.
Okay, I'm going to hop into interactive sniper and then go up to where we are right now, which is about 121. So right now, this is one of the interesting points with Red Bookshelf, is it actually has terrible cover most of the time as far as like static cover, but it has fantastic dynamic cover, because if anybody is standing on the right side of the pad and you get in there, it is actually pretty hard to see the hand. Now, that said, if they're looking at it, it's pretty easy to see, but it's not, with microfilm, it's not usually that often people are going to be staring down the people at the bookcases intentionally for the hands unless they're already suspicious. What's far more likely is that they will notice it out of their periphery, and it's very difficult, especially in positions like this where there's going to be someone reading right in front of them.
Yeah, dynamic in more than one way, too. You mentioned if someone's standing to your right at red bookshelves, they'll give you a lot of cover, and that's absolutely true. Some characters more than others, of course. Duke is not providing a lot of cover in this case for Queen because he's the double agent and he's low lit and you're wearing purple. So an arm would be pretty noticeable here. But the other type of dynamic cover they're going to give you is that people are going to walk along that little corridor when they leave those conversations. If they're not explicitly going to windows or statues there on the left, they're going to hug that corner a little bit, and they're going to be walking right between you and the sniper from most angles the whole time.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm curious what we're going to do, so I'm going to start it back up again. And so this is, I'm going to change over to replay sniper and see, like right now, we're also, I haven't really been in replay sniper mode, but we're zoomed in a lot there. We do just put it back normally. And so now I'm going to pause right here and then just talk about the spot that we're in overall. I think we're pretty far behind. I mean, kind of obviously, I'm not actually really even asking for an
going
opinion
on a
that
limb
one.
there. Yeah.
So, and so the problem is we faked banana bread. We haven't done anything that's left a trace, and we have to visit another set of statues in order to get one of our missions done. We have to seduce twice at least to get seduce done. I think from this position, you either have to go into time ads if you really want to finish, or you're gonna have to show some hard tells and go all in on that fake banana bread you had done earlier. What do you think between those general strategies we should do in this position?
Well, the fact that we're in Challenger complicates things a little bit, because what I would normally do doesn't necessarily apply here. I feel like a late rush can actually be pretty powerful, but it's also true that just blatant frame strategies can probably work a little better too. At this point, I mean, you hate to say just purloin and hope for the best, but that might be your highest percentage play right now. But the only exception being if you can get 2 things done real quick. If you can get like a flirt and an inspect done, if you can get a bug and a BB boom boom, or a BB covering for a purloin and then walk away and actually try to finish. If you can get 2 mission type progress things done in the next like 15 seconds, you have a full minute left, and that's not too bad, especially if you've still got inspect swap on the table. So I think you maybe make one attempt to try to find a site that allows you to make progress across multiple dimensions. And if you can't find that, then you have to purloin and hope for the best.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's see what we do. I'm going to go ahead and bring it back up again. We have a possible bug opportunity. We do not take it. And we're just walking along right now. I kind of don't like the way we're... Okay, so we are going to try to finish if we're going to be going in for a double agent right here. So right now we have a BB, and then we could follow up with a purloin.
Banana bread.
I mean, that's the simplest way because you kind of control both in a way, especially the purloin. So that's the easiest way to go boom, boom, and to have one mission cover for another, but it looks like that's not going to happen. Well, maybe it is. There we go.
Oh, well. Safety comes off, by the way, on the left-hand side of the map. Or, left-hand side of the map. So right now we've put a second banana bread up, and we are almost certainly going to time ad. Now, it's kind of an awkward time to time ad, and... Oh, but General, one of the people that was actually highlight. Okay, This is interesting. I'm going to see
Yes,
what happens
that
right
was
here.
totally off screen. That was totally off screen. They were staring at General. This is very significant.
Okay, I wanted to see to make sure that we didn't get highlight in the aftermath of this, but let's actually go back and look at that real quick. So I'm going to go full sniper on this one.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we have a time ad right at 20-ish seconds. And so we have a time ad. We're looking at General. The thing is, General never actually checks the watch. And then Rooks comes over, whips over, does not see Queen at windows, and then checks the hidden spot just to see who is there. If there was someone in that hidden spot, they would be top suspect at that point.
Yep, absolutely. And it's interesting, though, that, yeah, the General approached windows, but he got there just as the timeout happened and there was no watch check. I guess if you didn't feel onto it, you could think, well, did I miss something? But Rooks was staring at them. That's the whole reason they missed the timeout in the first place. So they had to be pretty confident that's not General. And that's both a scary and a kind of good moment, too, though, is when you have an overwhelming suspect and something happens that just does not fit at all or even excludes them outright. You know, you're happy because now you don't have to worry about them anymore, or maybe you can stop suspecting them so much. On the other hand, you're like, oh, crap, what have I been missing? And so what's interesting about this time ad, therefore, is that now the odds of getting someone shot have just skyrocketed. You didn't actually get any mission progress with a time ad, but you've totally thrown the sniper off because they had a top suspect. The time ad doesn't fit with it. So now they're wondering, while I was tunneling on this person, what else did I miss? And if they feel like they missed a bunch of stuff, they're going to feel like they have to shoot. So even though Rooks is probably actually, Ventus is actually trying to finish here, the odds of getting a civilian shot actually just got a lot better because they missed that time ad so completely and had a top suspect already.
Agreed. And just, I would say the lesson in this game for me for Rooks is maybe think about just taking more lowlights, just in general. There was 3 banana breads and a time ad where you had a really good view of who it could not have been, where he chose, instead of lowlighting everybody on screen, basically, because he was in the beeps and then the beeps stopped. It was obviously a white time ad, and we obviously probably felt like we missed the time ad, unless we were worried about General. But maybe, let's say, we don't know enough about General to really eliminate them as a suspect. Lowlight everybody in conversation on the left side of the map.
Yes. This is the fail gracefully kind of thing that I'm surprised and frustrated sometimes, just as a caster or a player or whatever, as a person, that it doesn't happen more. If it's the same thing as with like a cough during banana bread or leaving conversation or whatever. If you can't see it, and you're going to know within a half second if you saw it or could have seen it, right? You're going to go, I don't know who it is. The second you realize you don't know who it is, you should be able to find 5 people who are right under your cursor or near it or wherever your eyes were, that you are almost positive did not. Take those free lowlights. Get something out of it. Sometimes it's better anyway, especially with time ads, because they're not even a mission. So it's not even like you really need to necessarily narrow it down because they're about to finish. They're time adding because they're not about to finish.
Exactly. And so I'm actually very curious what's going to happen in this game, because this is a really interesting game to start off with, because I still don't know who's going to win. Because right now, I totally agree that civilian shot is a big possibility, especially since I'm up at 33 seconds. We just got a green purloin. So there's been 3 banana breads, a time ad, and pretty soon a purloin. I would not be surprised at all if a civilian gets shot. But Vent, Kitsune, whatever. Ven still has to Queen still needs to do missions to force overtime. If the sniper, it's one of those weird situations where the sniper might be so overwhelmed that they just don't know what to do. And they're just really hoping that something like this is going on where they're going to have to do another hardtail in front of them.
Exactly. This is another one of those things where you actually kind of want the sniper to be good up to a point. You don't want them to be too good or they're just going to win. But if they're too overwhelmed, you're right. It could just be inaction. You know, it could just be inability to fire at all, and they decide that's their best option. You want them to be overwhelmed, but you still want them to have a sense of, it feels like there's probably a finish here. So you want to kind of straddle that line just right. And it does feel, like you said, like they're probably going to try to finish here, or at least leave themselves the option. It's actually a shame this purloin's happening so late, though. If it happened earlier with the other BB, for example, it'd be early enough that they could wait and see if a shot came off and then finish or not. Now it's late enough that they kind of have to proceed as if it's not going to be a civ shot. They have to make plans to finish, even while they might be trying to hope someone else gets shot.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to start playing pretty soon, but in my head, I was also thinking of something interesting where it would be a fun add-on to the replay system where you could take over from Spy at a certain position and then just play out the rest of the game. Because it would be kind of garbage because you'd be playing against a computer sniper. But unless you had some sort of weird thing where someone could take over as sniper at the same time. But at this point, getting 3 missions done is very interesting in 30 seconds, and I really would not want a time ad. So I'm curious what's going to happen. I'm going to start playing at 33 seconds. Go in now.
Yeah, I think the problem is if you had a second flirt, everything's opened up, and because you don't, and because your ST just walked all the way across the venue and is going to statues, and it's too late. You're not going to be able to inspect and flirt at the same time.
We're probably going to have to... Okay, we do get the green swap. Okay, this is very interesting. So we're going to finish that inspect. Okay, so now we have to bug, I think. I really feel like we should just go bug.
You have to. Yep,
Oh,
they're going in
we're
the...
gonna time
Yep, they have time out again. They're going to time out again, even while rushing all these. That's really rough. We are close enough to the statue. Are we close enough to stop the swap from going off?
We're not going to... Wait, are we hitting it in time? No, we do hit it in time, and we walk away. And again, we are... Sniper's overwhelmed.
Wow.
Okay, so...
There goes the swap.
Okay, so swap has come off, and Purloin has happened, and there's still no shot.
Just green to red? This is either patience or paralysis. I'm not really sure which, but a swap has come off, a Purloin has come off, a BB has happened. There have been 2 time ads. Are they just that sure of who it is? I can't imagine.
No. And I completely agree that when I've been in these situations, I'm just like, I don't know. And I refuse to pull the trigger even on situations where I know that I should. All right, well, there's going to be overtime.
Into red. They're not being watched at all, though. The Amba's being watched. General, I still think, is being watched. What's with this time? Yeah, what are they looking at?
Yeah. Okay, so that was very interesting because, all right, so this is finally a challenger game where I feel like it was actually... I could give advice to these players rather than the challenger and early league games where I felt like, man, I actually can't believe these players are this good. It's still very good, and like they were able to the spy was able to pull out to get to mission completion and didn't just let themselves time out, which first of all, under these kind of stressful situations, I'm so glad they didn't do the classic thing that I still do of starting to add time and then just being so impatient to let the arm go down that it doesn't actually add time, and you time out right after. So props to that. And they were able to get to 5 missions done, but clearly this game got completely away from Sniper to a point where they were just, like you said, overwhelmed was the perfect way to put it. In that game, we did 3 banana breads, transferred, swapped, purloined, went to inspect, and time added twice. And that party was still almost all lit.
Yeah, great point. So this is actually maybe an underappreciated part of that fake early on. You were complimenting it because only 3 people were at a conversation. They decided not to focus on the people who could have done reels. They just took the lowlights they could, and I'm trying to see, did they even get all of them? Maybe. Let me see. No. There were 3 hard lowlights. They got 1 of them. So it was a fake. It wasn't a reel, but they only got 1 of... There were 2 banana breads that went off, and they got 1 lowlight on Veranda. And that has to be related to the confusion that we mentioned later. The fact that they got away with 2 time ads, the fact they were watching too many things at the end. This was an example of not whittling the party down so that it was manageable in the end game. So you can catch one of, let's say, 10 people zooming around the venue doing all this stuff, adding all this time. Way easier to catch than the 20 or so you're trying to track. So the failure there is almost definitely not even getting the lowlights you could have and not finding any others along the way.
Yeah, and I have a little bit more to say, but I probably want to move on to the next game. But the thing that I will say is one of the recurring themes we might be revisiting during these matches, on these large maps, you have to make decisions about what you're going to do. About are you going to take the obvious, clear, but are you going to take away? Are you going to basically reduce the size of the party, or are you going to raise the suspicion level on a particular few people? Same thing happens on library, where are you going to try to look for the thing that's happening off screen, or allow the thing that's happening off screen to inform how you can narrow down the party with what you have on screen. It's similar to library, but less obvious because you feel like you should be able to see everything. But in that rotation where we checked for that time ad, and instead of low lighting everybody in front, we went and looked to see if there was a spy in the hidden corner. Now, that's not a necessarily bad move, but we didn't work out, and we got nothing from that time at all as Sniper.
Yes, and you need to get something from it. You need to fail gracefully, like I said. Your game plan can't be, I'm going to catch everything. The game plan can't be, I'm going to tunnel on someone and it's going to be the spy. The game plan has to be, I have my general leanings, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, I'm looking at that person, but I have things in my peripheral, I have ways to kind of make it easier on myself, and I have things I can do if it kind of falls apart. I think what's interesting though, the Seduce is not done here. We got 3 hardtails. Seduce is the 5th most completed mission in Challenger the last 2 years. 5th most on Veranda. 5th. It's 2nd or 3rd in most divisions. It's 2nd, 3rd all over the place. Seduce is actually, it's barely 5th. It's just like a 0.5% low, a 1/3% below Inspect on Veranda and Challenger. But that's crazy. They only get Seduced on 43% of the time. So you just, and with the 2 time ads, you come back to pacing. It's both pacing issues. That's all it is.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next game, which I believe is Alta 4 versus the Headhunter.
Let me double check. I believe so. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And I'm again not really familiar with these players. I know that I've seen the names around before. I know that there was a cast on Alta 4 recently, and I think that there was a cast on the Headhunter earlier in the season. But besides that, all right. Well, this is now we are so. I don't think we actually.
Sorry, before we get into it, I'm in classic Slowcast fashion. I'm just going to say just one more thing that occurs to me after the fact. So we talked about, you talked about, both of us really, about the difference between taking lowlights you can get or putting more suspicion on a select few people instead. And I talked about how that's one of those areas where whatever you're normally highlighting for, the party's sort of telling you highlights for statues are not good this game, or whatever you were highlighting for is not good this game. Focusing on real BBers might be better this game. That's a really tough decision to make. And I would not necessarily advise new players to try to make those decisions in the moment because it's really hard. You have to get good at doing it out of like reflex. You know what I mean? Like just seeing immediately, I did not get enough from this banana bread out of what I would normally look for. If you're normally looking for hard lowlights and you only get 3, you immediately have to decide that's not enough. I have to do something else, or I have to consider doing something else at least, like focusing on real BBers or something, right? Or looking for talkers even at that point. If you get your standard 5 or 6 though, you just do that. So what I would advise these players to do someday is different than what I would advise them to do today. Today, I would say just be more disciplined. Get those 3 hard lowlights, get the extra ones that were available for the second banana bread, and then just work at it, right? Grind it down. Take the safe lowlights if that's what you want to do, if that's what you need, especially in this case, because you really needed that party to be simpler looking at the end. So maybe 4 or 5 was enough between the 2. If that's what you're comfortable with, keep doing that. But the long-term goal, the thing you want to do eventually to be your absolute best sniper, is to see that moment and go, crap, this is a good banana bread. And in that moment, decide to do something else. That's going to take a long time to cultivate. I wouldn't recommend it right away, but that's the end goal. That's the end zone for you.
All right. I'm going to take that advice and I'm going to maneuver it into my point, or into a point that I'm going to do on the next game, which is Alta 4 versus the Headhunter. And I'm going to take just a second to talk about laser positioning at the beginning of this. So let me go ahead and get that ready on OBS. Okay, so so when we were in this position, and right now I am just putting myself in the typical sniper laser position on the map. I'm also realizing that we rotated all the way around to the right. Now, see, I actually wish that was necessary because that's the way it was on old Veranda a little bit. Is you have to rotate around a lot. But there were people in the conversation circle right here where I'm pointing, but you didn't actually need to rotate to the right. You can rotate to the left to check for people in that corner. And
Yes,
it's way quicker.
They wasted a lot of time going to the right. You're right.
Exactly. So when you need to rotate over to the right is if there's maybe 2 people at the back statues and you cannot get an angle on it. And sometimes that really does happen. And you have to go all the way over here. And it's this horrible thing. It's this long trip, but you give up a lot. That could theoretically happen, that you really want to rotate over, but it's very, very rare. You don't need to move outside of this range that I'm showing right here basically ever. Now, every once in a while you might have to rotate over here and like to check again if there's 2 people at statues.
But there's a range. There's a range at the 2/3, kind of like I always say the 60%. It's like the golden ratio, really, right? Mm-hmm. It ends up applying to a lot of different things. That sort of 1/3 of the venue is on your left, 2/3 is on the right. You don't really need to ever get out of that general range. You might rotate for bugs or statues or something. You might zoom in, but you're right. Unless you're specifically checking those statues late, you never need to go all the way to the right.
Yes. Okay. And all right. So we are. This is an Obsidian match. I have it on the wrong thing. It's on the wrong. Oh.
You had the right letter. You're pretty close.
Acorns. Acorn to Obsidian. You know. Right. I'm starting
acorns and rocks.
Starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, and so while I'm on that topic of the laser rotation, while we're waiting for the game to kind of get underway, one of the big changes between old art veranda and new art veranda is there used to be a bush right here where I'm pointing on stream at the corner of the entrance over here, and it makes a huge difference because, like I was saying, you don't actually have to rotate really much further beyond this to get a peek at people at statues, and you used to have to. And also, very importantly, probably even more importantly, bookcase from the normal sniper laser position was obscured. Blue bookcase, that is. So if you wanted to see the arm, you'd have to come over. Again, you wouldn't have to leave that middle 40% or so, but you would not at least have to leave it's like 30% that you can get most of the map in.
Well, let's go even older. You're talking old art veranda. How about old art veranda before they switched to the statue setup? This was actually one of my first experiences actually affecting the game's development, and it was such a cool moment where I just kind of randomly threw out, hey, why don't we put 4 statues, sets of 2 each, so that you only need 2 statue visits, because I believe it used to take 3 inspects, but every statue set was 1, right? So you need 3 visits, which really messed up the game. And I said, why don't you just make them 2 each? And then like a week later, it was in the game. And I was like, oh, wow, I guess I'm a fan for life. That's super cool. That's the benefit of joining an early access game super, super early. And it's obviously made the mission way more viable, because before it felt a little bit like Courtyard 1, where completing inspects was death.
Yeah, Courtyard 1 was a bad map that was also interesting, and like people the thing about the Courtyard 1 is like the little tiny coves that the statue would be in. So swap was strangely more viable, but inspect was so garbage that it did not make up for it.
Well, get it all out now, because I am never agreeing to a slowcast of Courtyard 1.
Yeah. I mean, I could see what Cameraman was one of the people that would consistently pick Courtyard 1 wasn't available in SCL like seasons like 1 and 2 because people weren't familiar with it. And then what would happen is people would talk about how hard Courtyard 1 was for the spy. But then because people were unfamiliar, the sniper is always the one that is worse off with unfamiliarity. So it would usually be spy wins because they would just never play it.
Yep.
All right, anyway, right now we are pretty standard opening. We have inspected and gotten 2 flirts in, probably 3rd, but we've traded a highlight for it. We are one of a good number of highlights, so it's not too bad. We've kind of decided to take the normal opening. Now, I'm going to pause right here and just look at the banana bread quality. I'm not going to talk about it too much unless it's really interesting. It's actually a bad banana bread, a little bit. When I say bad banana bread, I mean an easy banana bread for the sniper if they want to take all the lowlights on the left-hand side of the map. It's an inefficient one, but also Alta 4 wouldn't be really able to see the other side of the map a lot, which is also something that Checker is considering changing, and I really would like him to, because right now this banana bread looks great from Alta 4's spot right here as Seek. It looks like a fantastic banana bread, but if you peek on over,
Yep. Great point. There's 5 hard lowlights, and 3 of them, I think, are over there to the left. And this is something we also talked about on Ballroom. There's hard lowlights in the technical sense of we're going to freeze frame it, look all around like the game's tutorial does, that cool moment where it shows you all the lowlights. But that's not the real world. The real world is not, I have a photographic memory and I'm going to take a snapshot. Oh, and I can see the whole venue at once, by the way, and I'm going to get every lowlight. That's not the real world. The real world is you have to decide in the next second, and you're not sure if somebody just split to bookshelves or statues. You're not sure if someone left right away. You don't know if it's a green or a white. You don't know. There's a lot of movement. But when you see people like this at statues, at green bookshelves, at red bookshelves, for example, like that, some of these are easy lowlights, meaning you could wait a full second or 2 and still be very confident that they couldn't have done a reel.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start again and just see what we get out of this banana bread. So whether or not we go over and we get the easy lowlights, it's interesting, actually. It's not quite as bad as I thought originally, because Duke was in conversation and talking. So we just take that lowlight over there, though. So we end up exactly what we were mentioning before. We don't actually get into the lowlights that are on the right-hand side of the map at all, which I believe would have been Orange Sari. Let me actually check that. I always forget that. Yeah, we could have... we could have gotten Orange Sari, I think. Yeah, Orange Sari was out of conversation and Taft.
And the sniper has a lot of decisions to make there. They're saying it's an isolated part of the venue over there. There's an SDA, but hey, there's 3 of them. And it would be 1 person in with them. That'd be such a risky banana bread to take. So the headhunter makes the very reasonable decision to just lowlight all that and assume that the spy has been on the right side this whole time, and they're right.
Yes, and the reason why just in case people are wondering why we care about easy lowlights or hard lowlights to take, the reason why easy lowlights are 96%. That's a bummer. The reason why we care more about the easy lowlights is because they're quick lowlights and you can whip right back over. And let's say we had gone for purloin when we were taking all those lowlights. If the lowlights are scattered all over the map and we have to click one by one on them and kind of look around and think about each one, we're going to be distracted away from hardtails during that time. But because the lowlights were very easy to take, we come right back over and go right back to guarding.
Yes, quickness and confidence. Quickness in this for the reason you just mentioned, and confidence that you can be sure of it. You're not like second guessing yourself in the moment, which is even worse. If you have to decide, could they have gotten out? Could they have split, for example? Because spies love to split. So it's a bit of both too. They're high quality lowlights.
Okay, so we're in a position right now at 30 seconds. I'm just going to pause for a second. We're in a position where I consider this to be the classic spy problem of we are eating our vegetables. We are getting contact, seduce, and inspect out of the way. But because we don't really want to rush those things, we want to get them done in a reasonable amount of time. We have found ourselves that we still have another inspect to do. We've done seduce and we've done contact, but we only have 30 seconds left. I understand that you intuitively want to get those out of the way because it feels good to only be 2 missions away from being complete, and then you just do the last 2. And I definitely get sucked into that trap often. But
it
because
is a trap. Yes.
It absolutely is a trap where we needed to sequence in a hardtail where we are basically guaranteeing that we are going to be a highlight doing hardtails at the end of the game. And
yes,
that means that like I would take that. If I was told before a game started, you can either you're gonna play against a spy who's very aggressively finishes in the middle of the game, is willing to do hardtails at any point, versus someone who does what we often kind of praise as a community, which is get your normal things done, do the normal kind of play. If you adhere to that too much, and I'm just like, well, they're gonna finish. They're going to do their slow tells, and then they're going to finish in the last, they're going to kind of like a messy finish where they're going to finish in like the last 20 seconds. I would typically take the latter because I would usually have control of the game. I'd be comfortable only working with 5 people on what otherwise is a really large and confusing map.
Yes, this is something I know I say this all the time on these Slowcasts, but there's another thing I'm probably going to write about is the kind of fake risk aversion of spies. It actually mirrors NFL head coaches, which is that if you look at NFL head coaches and the way they decide to do things, if they have to say get 2 scores late in the game, they need a field goal and a touchdown, they'll very often take the safe one first because it doesn't actually increase their chances of winning because they still need a second score and they've just delayed the tough decision or the tough play or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it delays the point at which everyone knows they're about to lose. Yeah. So it feels like they were closer to winning because a larger percentage of the game is spent not knowing what the likely outcome is. But it doesn't actually increase their likelihood of winning. That's not the same thing. It's a trick. Same thing with doing our soft tells first. You're acting as if missions equal points, and they don't. You don't get any credit for getting to the mission win countdown and getting shot. I'll grant that in certain cases, there is something to be said for drawing games out, maybe tiring your opponent out if they're a certain kind of sniper. There's arguments there, but let's be honest, that's not what's going on. What's going on is exactly what you said, falling into the psychological trap of, I want to feel like I'm getting progress. I want to feel like I'm getting my money's worth. It doesn't feel good to try to bug and get shot immediately, even though that can actually increase your chances of winning. It just doesn't feel like that. You feel stupid. You got caught immediately in a game where you're trying to feel cool and it's all about subterfuge. So you just bug in their face and it's over and you feel dumb. Whereas you feel okay if you do your contact and your seduce and your inspects and then you get shot for a bug in the last 30 seconds. You feel like you tested them a little bit. But maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you just delayed the point at which you were going to lose, clearly.
Yes. And for the people listening, I would almost like clip that section because that is actually a way in which you will immediately become a better better spy. Not really. A better sniper actually doesn't affect that much, which is actually something I love, is when we can give advice that is more suited to one role than the other one. Because that doesn't usually happen as sniper. I had a tangent on that one, but I'm going to skip away for now. But that's a great point. You losing embarrassingly isn't really a thing, except if you timed out because you just didn't really want to do that. That's a little embarrassing. But most of the time, otherwise, if you're getting missions done, there's not an embarrassing way to lose most of the time. You have to just will yourself into that, and also being able to mix it up. Now,
Yeah.
Obviously, it is also good to mix in the games where you just get steady progress in and then do something quick at the end. But if that's your type, then you need to be able to mix in a little bit more. And it's also just honestly what snipers are really comfortable against. This is a very normal looking game, except for we're a little bit behind on time.
Yeah, well, I do want to say two things though in their sort of in their general defense. You say that we generally tell people, we kind of praise people, like on cast and analysis and stuff like that, and in chat on the Discord, praise them for eating their vegetables, for getting those missions done. One of the reasons is that new players have a lot of trouble with it. As I mentioned earlier, as I alluded to in the Challenger game, they don't complete Seduce often enough. The higher divisions tend to complete it more, and it's clearly not a strategic thing. It's clearly just a lack of pacing. So part of it is having a good foundation as Spy, where you have a good sense of the pacing and you can do it. And the only way you're going to do that is if you sort of prioritize those soft tells early on, but you do have to graduate from it. Just like before, where I said with the lowlights versus the added suspicion, what you do to be better today is not what you're going to be doing to be better months from now. You want to get to the point where you're mixing it up a lot, but early on, if you're having trouble completing, just bear down and get your hard work done, right? Go ahead and do those soft tells and give yourself a chance. Also, against newer snipers, they're more likely to just civ shot before you even get to that point. Certainly, yeah. The other thing I want to say, though, is that Veranda is different in that I can understand wanting to put off the hard tells more because you're going to need either fingerprint or 2 hard tells. Right. It's a little different if you're on, say, something like Ballroom or Courtyard or something where you're like, you rush the early bug, and if you get it and you genuinely get it, you're just going to win. So that makes even more sense for prioritizing hard tells earlier and not just saving them for last. On Veranda, it's at least a little more nuanced because you have to come up with a 5th mission too. So it's not like you're going to be able to avoid doing a mission while suspicious entirely.
Yeah. So I think that there's 2 pieces of advice that I would come up with out of that. One of them is I think that I have a saying ready to go for the eat your vegetables thing. It's eat your vegetables, but don't chew them. Just choke those vegetables down. Because if you need to get the Seduce and Inspect done, then do them real quick and just shove those vegetables down the pipe. Don't chew them. Don't worry about choking. Just get them down real quick. And then
the problem with the broccoli I had growing up was when I tasted it. It wasn't the chewing. It was the lingering on the Brussels sprouts or whatever and thinking about how awful they were. If you just eat them, you're done.
Right. And then the next is, if you are doing things like, if you're doing the slow kind of like getting through the Seduce and Inspects and Contact, look for bug. And like I would normally say look for an opportunity for something, but honestly, you'd have to be proactively doing something to do microfilm or to kind of do purloin. It's like usually there's not like a specific moment at which purloin's really good because it's kind of always on screen. It's not really like the other maps. Swap, you have to go and actually swap it, and then fingerprint. So I would say watch the Ambassador. If you are doing these other things, look at the Ambassador. Either you're going to see good opportunities for fingerprints if they're not behaving and coming near you, or maybe you have a good bug opportunity, which you most of the time are going to really want to do on Veranda anyways. So just while you're doing seductions, look for bugs or fingerprints. Just watch Ambassador.
Yeah, so when you're eating those vegetables, you should at least be looking around the dining room. You know what I mean? You should be at least keeping an eye on everyone else around you because that's not really downtime. That's scouting time. That's reconnaissance time.
Right. Okay, so before we torture out this metaphor even more, where it's like, okay, eat your vegetables, choke them, but then also widely look around to the restaurant for people. It's good, don't worry.
Right. Yes, yeah. Count your calories and on we go, yeah.
All right, I'm starting at 30 seconds right now.
And right into time ad.
Which is unfortunate that if we had done that just a little bit earlier, we would have avoided the beep stopping. So we are probably going to be a pretty high suspect.
Yeah, pause. Sorry, pause. Yes. 102.
Okay.
Yes, we don't want to spend too much time on this because we're already stretching this game out. But just that general principle, this is not a Veranda-specific thing, but yes, you need to be able to project out into the future. This relates to the pacing issue. This is the first way you start to fix it. Project out into the future that you're going to need a time ad and do it before those beeps if you can. Unless the whole point is to do it at the very end at the same time as someone else or to have it hang at 0 with a green or something like that. We know that's not the case here, though. What the case here is you realize at 40 seconds, oh, crap, I'm not going to finish. So by the time you get to Windows, the beeps have started, and it's that much more noticeable without even getting into the fact that you were the only one at Windows. So 2 different things happen if you figure it out before. One is the beeps are not there reminding them and clearly showing them that the time ad is there. You have a visual cue on a white time ad. If it happens at 30 seconds, you have an audio cue as well. That is incredibly freaking powerful. You must avoid that if you can. You need a time ad before then. The other thing is, if you project it out, say, a full minute early, like 1:30, you can literally wait till there are several people at Windows or something. or until you're covered at windows or something, or a guest list is going down, or the ambassador is vulnerable, or there's people at statues, so they're busy watching those things instead of windows. But if you wait for 30 seconds, not only do you add the audio cue to the visual cue, but you specifically don't have any more time to pick a good time to do it the way you could if you decided earlier.
Yes. So you eat your vegetables, you don't chew them, you look around, and then if you're planning on dining and dashing, don't wait for them to bring the check to you. You can, if you need to delay the time when you have a check, you ask for dessert and then you go. Because that's the classic thing. If you're dining and dashing, you dash after the check comes. Terrible mistake. You have to split out of there before the check even ever arrives. Because who would actually do that at that point, right?
I think you actually brought the metaphor back a little bit there. I'm really impressed.
Yeah. Okay.
That actually made sense.
Okay. And one last little thing about that is the other reason is sometimes there's like the caveat we have of, well, there's always a green test could bail them out, like if they have to do a last second purloin or whatever. But maybe if they get a green test, whatever, it's still bad even if you get a green test because the beeps are going to be obviously slowing right after. It's almost as bad as a white test at that point.
Absolutely. And KCM weeps when he hears people say that, as he always says, and I think this is an overstatement, but I think it's 90% true and contains incredible wisdom. Plan your game as if you're not going to hit any green tests. Yeah. If you're relying on green tests to win, I think this breaks down a little bit as snipers get better and better, and it's okay sometimes to bank your game on a green test because you hit greens sometimes half the time, and that's decent spy odds at high levels. But in general, he's right. Think strategically. Don't bank on the green test to win.
All right, I'm starting it out. All right, so we have gotten the time ad, and I'm going to guess that we are one of very, very few suspects at this point. Although we don't have that much control over this party as sniper that I can think of.
Same problem as last time. There's still 6 lowlights, but you can see how little 6 is in the grand scheme of things. Look at how busy it looks.
Yeah, and also like not even just the lack of lowlights, just a ton of highlights.
Yes, yeah, so that's two things, right? There's how many lowlights do you have and how many highlights do you have. They're not the same thing, and different snipers have different weaknesses. Some really need the lowlights, others just need not too many highlights. It's totally different from sniper to sniper. There's no general rule, I think, for which is more important.
Oh, this is really interesting. Okay, so...
we dumped the book.
Okay, so we dumped the book, and I'm a little bit ahead of you.
And they swapped as well. Yeah, I'm at 12.
And then the shot's gonna come off. Okay, so interesting. So So what's interesting about that game is that game was one of the ones where we were a little bit behind on pacing until we needed to not be, and then we got a lot done real quick. Where our back was against the wall, and that's when all of a sudden we were doing things just totally nonstop.
The same thing, right? Same thing as the previous game, sort of. It's like, well, I have almost no time. I'm going to time add once instead of twice at least this time, and then I'm just going to rush missions. And, they were pretty good for rushed missions. I'll give them that. Mm-hmm. But the sniper, again, was just very hesitant.
Just imagine if you did this this microfilm at the beginning of the game, or like 30 seconds into the game instead. Before you were highlit, before you ever went to statues. The only difference is, like, let's just say you resequenced this. I'm really big on sequencing. If you just reordered if you reordered the missions, the order that you did them in, even though again, like, it's kind of embarrassing to just get shot for microfilm, it would have been so much more successful. And let's say that you just put that swap right there at the end again, but you had done it out of order. Where let's say you're just picking up your second set of statues, and you had just been highlighted before, and we were maybe a little bit earlier in the game. They might not be checking you, and they might not check for 10 seconds, and you just win.
Yeah, that could be. I will say something in defense of these people, which is that the swap thing kind of still has to be last. Swaps in the middle of the game are just dramatically different, unlike the microfilm or the books, because those missions don't leave a trace. But swaps and purloins at different points in the game are dramatically different. They cannot be easily resequenced. They change the entire flow of the metaphorical river and the branching narratives and all that stuff when you do them. But the bug and the microfilm are the ones you can just sort of resequence potentially. Yeah. I will also say, in defense of spies doing things while highlight, that in this case, yes, you would be doing the microfilm without a highlight, but there also wouldn't be 5 other highlights vying for the attention. Doing it late in the game means if the sniper has not gotten control of the party, they might have more to look at than they did at the start, even with those lowlights, because they're focusing on the highlights. That, however, is a big ask. I think that only works against newer or intermediate snipers. Any good sniper and above, and I'm even using good pretty loosely, it's going to be the opposite. They're going to be more focused on you at the end of the game because of that highlight. But sometimes if they lose control of it, it's the other way around because they have 6 just like you.
Very, very true. Okay. Well, let's jump into the next game, which will be... let's see. That is Ninja Fairy versus Soul Seam, I believe.
Yeah, Copper. Yes, indeed. And let me see here. Copper on Veranda, only a little higher than the average for spy wins, 43% instead of 40%. Still pretty sniper favored, which is what you see when you get into the middle divisions and above. Although, briefly, while you're setting that up, something that did strike me, and I don't have the total numbers for all venues in front of me, but I noticed that on Veranda, the sniper has won more than the spy in every single division. And it's not that rare for even a pretty sniper favored venue to be sniper favored, certainly at the highest levels, usually at most of the moderate ones, but there's always some weird thing like an iron or especially challenger, right? Where the meta is totally different and the spy wins much more. Off the top of my head, I'd be surprised if there was more than one or two venues where the sniper had won the majority of SCL games in every single division to date. But that's the case with Veranda. It's closest in challenger, 51%, but it's over 50% in every division.
Yeah, one thing I'm going to pay attention to is how many games need a time ad. Veranda is a reason why it's hard for spies that are newer is because they have to do a lot of things and they're going to get unpaced and have to do things at the end. And so even with the confusion of the sniper, there's just going to be it's hard for them to finish. And then higher up you go, it's easier and easier for the sniper to manage it. So even as spies are more and more able to pace out to their fifth mission, snipers will progressively get better and able to handle the party. So I'm not surprised to hear that it's even at low levels, it's still a sniper favored map.
Yeah, it amplifies the pacing issues that we're talking about. Absolutely. We see the same thing with Modern, by the way. The larger venues, they take what's weak in a sniper, and that's, for example, and in a spy, and they just kind of amplify it sometimes, and that usually is pacing.
Yeah, and I would say it's an interesting general idea of thinking about the difference between high level players and low level players, or newer players, I guess I should say, is that the types of issues they're going to have in their games are going to be pacing is going to be a big one for just unfamiliarity, but like things like aggression are sort of just innate. It's not something like you can use it more or less strategically. Sometimes like spies are just naturally way too aggressive. Often they will be I don't know. When you've sat down with players at like PAX, for example, sometimes they will just be so wonderfully brazen of just like they're just going to do missions right in the sniper's face, and you're thinking that they're going to get shot, but they're not. And that's actually a great experiment, and because they're like that's on an individual level, the person that they're playing is a meta where they're both at the same level relatively, and so thinking of just amplifying that sort of like aggressive play up to like a diamond level player is that you would do it more technically correct, but that still you wouldn't have that. It's not something that necessarily gets better or worse the more you play. Sometimes you might actually get too passive the longer you play because either you get too attached to just not losing in the beginning of the game because it's embarrassing or something like that, where things like pacing just tend to get better. You don't seem to, it doesn't usually happen where the more you play, the worse you get at pacing. You might get more tactical about your pacing where you don't start to pace out, like you will intentionally, like aggressively idling is an example of that. But that's not something that's like it doesn't have the sort of horseshoe thing where maybe there will be a thing where a spy starts off super aggressive in their career and then learns more about the game and learns how to relax a little bit, but then they get better and better and learn how to be aggressive again. It's not linear like the other things.
Exactly. Right. Correct. Yeah. It's not like you get more aggressive as you go or less aggressive as you go. It's not that simple. But right. The pacing thing, you probably don't just time out pointlessly as much as you go on.
All right. So we have Ninja Fairy on Bling Twin and Sulseem as Sniper, starting in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so we are just looking around right now. We might go for this bug. All right. We are going to seduce right now. We are not seducing until kind of late. Oh, and we're actually going to miss on that. So we're going to have to talk about this too much and belabor it too much, but I'm going to go back and just talk about the timing on that one. By the time we got there, we didn't flirt before the drink. We didn't actually start doing the seduction until after we had put the drink back down. And then by the time we'd even started it, it was just too late. Just play around with that practice mode.
Yeah, they didn't flirt during the sip. You can flirt during sips.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. It's a tiny little thing, but that drink, it's annoying to start with a drink sometimes, but in this case it's a godsend because you can start the flirt pretty much as soon as you get there without it being inherently suspicious.
Right. The same thing happens at statues as well. Books are a little bit trickier because you kind of know how long they're going to be at statues a little bit more frequently, but sometimes they'll leave after just one cycle at bookshelves. But anyways, and so, okay, I'm going to actually pause here for just a second. You are in this position. Seduction target has not been helpful. The thing that you've been trying to do just won't happen. So you've eaten up a bunch of time. You've tried to stay on pace, but you haven't. What are some ways to compensate for a map like Veranda?
Oh, you're asking me directly. Oh my God. So we're at 322. Is that right? Roughly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So compensate for the fact that your ST is not helping is what you're saying.
Right. You wasted whatever kind of it is, whatever you were planning to do. Like, let's say you're trying to bug or something like that, or contact, and like that was your focus, and you just couldn't get it done. So you've gone a minute in and you've done nothing. It's not even that you've really fished for a low light. You've just done nothing. You've just lost a minute of the game with nothing to show for it.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely need a general idea of what kind of game you want to play at that point to make that decision meaningfully. If you are still just doing the Softail thing, and if you're trying to rush the flirts early, there's a pretty good chance that's what you're doing. But if you're doing that Softail game which we just sort of semi-advised against, then the obvious alternative is to go to statues early. You might pick up a highlight, but it's something you know you can do at any time. It's something you know is not going to be incredibly suspicious right now because it's just one visit. So I've seen STs bail, and then spies will say, okay, inspects now. I have to go twice anyway if I'm planning on completing it. It doesn't really cut me off from swap or anything else. It might cut me off from fingerprint, but maybe the amble will go, maybe they won't. I'll get the inspects done in the meantime, is the main thing, I think. Mm-hmm. Anything else is probably a more dramatic shift. You're like eyeing up the ambassador. Maybe you do a purloin or something. But I will say that if your seduction target is moving around, and this is related to if you want to bug in the ambassadors moving around, there is a small upside to it. If you want to bug in the ambassadors moving around, they're also leaving fingerprints. So maybe take advantage of that instead, that the party is telling you to do something else. It's less dramatic with your seduction target, but if they're moving around a lot, they're probably at mission sites. They might be a frame target. And it's really easy to remember them as a frame target because there's your seduction target. And because you can even red flirt them. And because you're going to be around them anyway. All that stuff. So you can be around them flirting to give yourself an option, yet simultaneously trying to frame them for a BB when they talk. So if your seduction targets or anyone is in the party is being stubborn, there are ways to potentially take advantage of that because it means they're being busy.
All right, so I'm going to kind of try to like boil down that piece of advice into, I like what you said about if the party's telling you not to do something. If you are trying to play a certain type of game and the party's telling you no, you either have to go with what the party is telling you or change the party's mind. So an example of that would be you have to do something like something dramatic like add time, maybe throw in a purloin or something like that to now change the gameplay or game plan into something dramatically different, and then just see what happens at that point. So like, for example, you could, if you go to a spot where purloin might be a little bit less obvious, and then just see if you get a green or a white and then base your game on that. Or just go with the flow of what the party is telling you and do things like the setup on the bug, or ignore seduction until the very end. It's actually very kind of unusual to just jam seduction in the last minute because, again, you're kind of throwing yourself to the wind a little bit there in case you can't.
Yeah. I mean, you're putting a puzzle together. Your puzzle was going to be, I'm going to do my soft tails and then I'm going to line up my hard tails or something like that. So when one of the soft tails is not working out, you ask yourself, what other piece fits here? And that usually means other soft tails. Start the inspects, maybe a fingerprint. Those are the things that also fit. If they don't fit and you want to do something else, you don't want to do those for whatever reason, then you're working with a completely different puzzle, a completely different picture. And you need to rethink, what you were going to do in what order. But the first thing to do is to find the things that fit into that slot with the least friction. It's usually inspect and sometimes it's fingerprint.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start playing because we are very, very slow today. But it's been going well so far.
The first few games are always like this because we info dump all the big picture stuff. Yeah,
that's true. And like as we go on, there's less and less for us to say, and we'll just be like more like watching and being in awe. All right, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
And you're around 320.
I am on 320. Yes. Okay, so ambassadors moving around. We're looking around a little bit. We could have maybe gone for that bug, except for we still have book in our hand. So we do have this book, and so one thing we can just do is just dump this book. Now, the unfortunate thing is that because both twins have been to red bookcase, we don't have the sort of plausible. Which twin was I though that went to the bookcase? Like if there was one at green, one at red, and then you just go to the opposite one that the twin was at.
Oh, another time ad. Another you called it. You said you wanted to see how many of these games had time ads. That's 3 in a row.
Yeah, and then so part of it is
This was well timed though.
Yes, it was well timed, and it was, you're right, where similar to the ones before, they identified the need early and then just did it. They just did it without worrying about putting themselves in a worse situation later where they're still going to need a time ad, because they probably would unless they're going to do a very dramatic rush.
And look what they were able to do. They used it to help cover, sort of, for the book. So even if they did catch the time ad, they're looking around for who could have done it. And maybe it's almost like a BB covers, for something. The time ad can almost cover for something there if they don't nail you for it. And they do it early enough in the game that they're able to pick a spot. They go to that hidden window right near the mission site they want to go to anyway. So if they don't catch it immediately, you look like you were just at Blue Shelves instead. So that was actually a really well thought out time ad because it wasn't panicked. It happened very early in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now this game looks a lot better than it did just a little bit ago. We were able to pull it back. We might be lining up a bug, or maybe we're lining up a fingerprint, but Ambassador's not putting that briefcase down.
Yeah, the time ad seemed to have been completely free, and that's interesting because you mentioned tutoring people at PAX, and the people at PAX time ad a bunch. The majority of spies that get shot at PAX, the Penny Arcade Expo, the convention where SpyParty is often demonstrated, new players, overwhelmingly, the game turns on time ads. They take too long, they have to add time, they get shot for adding time, they get shot for not adding time sometimes, just for going to Windows and looking at their watch, all that stuff. But we're just a little bit high up enough that sometimes you get people who just kind of forget to look for time ads entirely.
I'm not sure. Ooh, we are getting seduction target. Now, see, I was gonna say getting seduction target screwed, but we waited a long time at window before going and joining our seduction target, and I don't actually know what we were doing. We were looking around for apparently something. So we're gonna finish up our second set of inspects right here. Now, swap would be very strange here, like you said before. Swapping early or late tends to be the best spot. Now, it can be counterintuitive to swap in the middle, but it's because it's kind of bad still.
Yeah, and it's still usually on the back half of the game. It's usually like you're one more flirt away, or you can BB to cover for it and then flirt or something. You almost never just do it like a minute in or something. That's just, you're kind of overthinking at that point. Counterintuitivity can work, but it's a high risk, high reward kind of thing. And I don't think it's going to work here, certainly.
All right, so even after Seduce, we have another mission. Right now we're watching DA. Maybe that's what we were watching earlier in the game. Okay, so DA did just join a conversation circle. We might be trying to bug here. It must have been on screen. I was in dual cast mode and it didn't have it in the middle of the screen. We got away with the bug. And now... So it's got to be a swap right now, and I'm not a big fan of that unless we were... I'm going to actually pause for a second and look back. Was anyone at that statue before? No.
No, so there's no upside here, but this is the kind of scenario I was talking about. Even though it's not the last mission, you know that if you get in close to your seduction target after this, it's going to happen. So if they are not all over the swap, you still only have one more thing to do, and you could easily fake into flirt or something.
I find this to be a strange choice with the briefcase return, but we are going to jump into Seduce and finish our fifth... Oh my god! And it was the briefcase. Okay, so this...
That's brutal.
Oh my... Oh my god.
Look at this.
This is tragic.
That game fell apart.
Wow. This is a fascinating... Okay, I actually go back. I'm going to go back. This is weirdly tragic, this game. So, so just in the last, 30 seconds... wow, this is a strange one. So,
starting with the briefcase pickup, right?
So we pick up the briefcase and we bring it over, and because ambassadors at bookshelf, we put the briefcase down, and it calls seduction target over to pick it up, which is what causes us to lose. Because we were guaranteed to finish flirt right there, but because we made that odd choice, the nearly benefitless fingerprint. Now, I mean, if we had gone that fingerprint, we could have just gone and done a double fingerprint, I guess. We could have done the difficult fingerprint and then immediately gone and fingerprinted after. But we could have just gone and seduced instead of bringing the briefcase over, the very one that made Seduce leave.
Well, so that's what's interesting. I think I'm not one of the super AI experts exactly, but I think they have to decide to leave first. That they were going to get bailed on regardless, if depending on how the code works out, right? But I don't think they decide to pick it up because it's nearby if they're in the CC. I think it's like when they decide to leave and then path over it, maybe. I'm not sure. But I think
that has like a pull, doesn't it? It's like a weak pull. It's weaker than green swap, for example.
Right. But there's like a trick to it. It's like here's the example I'm using, the heuristic here. If the ambassador's next to you in conversation and their proximity thing is violated and they walk away, let's say they leave the briefcase behind, right? It's right next to you because they were just standing right next to you. You don't have to pick it up. You can stay in that conversation indefinitely. When you decide to leave, you have to pick it up unless someone beats you to it. But you can decide not to leave and never pick it up.
So I guess you're saying the difference between them would be the percentage chance that you leave remains the same, but the actions that are within the post leaving decision are heavily dominated by briefcase. If that's just there.
Yeah, I think you create a situation where if your ST bails, they're going to bail for a really long time because of the briefcase. I think that's what happened. And if that's the case, that means this ST was stubborn one last time. And wow, yeah, they really tried to force that all game, and it kind of cost them the game because they were one short and they had several, 3 different flirts not quite work out?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I mean, okay, so then on the timing where if we didn't pick up the briefcase, we could have just walked straight there and flirted because
it wasn't a big enough move. I mean, there was so little time left. You have to hit a difficult, and even it's not the difficult isn't for the win. The difficult isn't even for the fingerprint mission into the flirt. It's for you don't have flirt done, and you don't even have a fingerprint, and you're using a difficult, and that's just time you don't have right there. Get the flirt first. Once you have the flirt, you can do a lot of different stuff suddenly. You can flirt while you're calling Toby over even.
Yeah. Well,
and you didn't even contact. By the way, we never contacted.
Yeah. So we didn't. So there was a lot left hanging, a lot of low hanging fruit left in that game where we ended with 1 fingerprint, which was unnecessary. We didn't contact. We didn't actually wrap up that seduction, even though we focused on it all game. We were focusing on seduce from the very beginning, and it just wasn't happening. And so we weren't. Yeah. It's funny because it was like we were aggressive at the wrong times on seduce. Because if we were a little bit more aggressive when we were at Windows and we just went straight there, but I think maybe we were looking for banana bread at that point. Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna move on to the next game, but
yeah, just real quick though, silent games can be very powerful, but it needs to be done with intentionality. You're deliberately doing a silent game to try to get them not to shoot. I think it makes sense higher up, but I think here in copper or even maybe bronze, maybe it's silver, I don't know, but I would say bronze and below probably, you're probably overthinking it when you don't do contact. Most of the time you want to do it, it's a good mission. It is the most done mission on Veranda total, 61.5% of the time. It's the highest rate of completion. And this is probably more telling, the highest completion rate on Veranda is in Diamond, just under 74%. That's not a coincidence.
And is it because they know something you don't, or is it because they are foolish?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's because it's a good freaking mission, and almost always it makes sense to do, except when you can put together a silent game at a really interesting time and deny them that shot prompt. Most of the time, though, don't overthink it. Just contact.
All right. Well, we are moving right on up to a silver level match between Pafka and Arturiax.
Yeah, Pafka or Pafki, I'm not sure which exactly. A Lithuanian, I believe.
We have several of those. It's very interesting. There seems to be several countries that we have we have a lot of people near where a lot of Californians specifically, and then West Coasters, and then Americans, and then pockets around the world in random spots. Like we have several people from Singapore, I believe. And then a lot of Australians. Not any. Do we have any New Zealanders? I don't actually know if we have any New Zealanders.
I don't know any offhand. Yeah.
And then Lithuanians. A bunch of Lithuanians. And then Portuguese. A bunch of Portuguese people.
Yeah. Weird little pockets of ethnicities. It's very interesting.
But not many French, for example. Not many Germans, even though those are the really big, large countries. Yeah. French and Germans, not as many. Lithuanians and Portuguese. Lots of those. Anyway.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Yeah, I don't know, what's up? So people in Europe, please spread the word. There's big population center in Spain, Germany, France. Spread the word a little bit. No Russians. Not many Russians either. Come on, what's going on?
We're just naming countries.
Yeah. None of the participants and really the big participants in the world wars.
That's true.
Anyway, we are starting with Pafka versus Arturiax, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
It's a silver. Silver particularly good at Veranda, by the way. One of the highest divisions there. I think second, 70% sniper win rate this past season. That's bananas.
Yeah. And also, speaking of which, we have Irish, but not many Irish players either. We are Irish.
And speaking of green purloin immediately. And we're at the heck out of there. And we're going to go to statues and look like we couldn't have possibly done it.
All right, so okay, so we pick up a highlight. It is almost certainly a statue highlight at this point because the purloin has not come off yet. We got a pretty good look at the purloin. We zoomed in for a second, so we've confirmed that the purloin has happened. But the purloin occurred, the reject, so early that it's really hard to tell what level of suspicion we're at.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I think 338 is when. Yeah, 338 is the first time I think it's noticed for sure. Is after the queen takes, which means Walt is taken, queen is taken, and I think there's a reject in between too. So I think they noticed it a good 10, 12 seconds late.
All right, so I'm pretty much just going to let this game play out unless something changes, but the thing that I'm going to talk about is, what this shows to me is Pafka had a game plan going into this. And then not only did Pafka have a game plan going into it, they really committed to it hard. They pushed the tails, the statistical tails, really far in one direction where they green purloined, and then they went to statues. And they got a low light because they were at statues, because they, then they weren't being offered a drink then. They wouldn't have had time, because whoa, I remember them. They're at statues so early. And so it's interesting. Well, now, if they were seen, let's say there's that low percentage chance that they were seen with the reject and then went right to the inspect, we are all of a sudden top suspect and almost certainly going to die. But that is way less of a chance than the normal Veranda spy win rate, for example.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know. There's a couple things to say about this. One is maybe they had a plan, or maybe they were just kind of spawned near Toby. That happened. Or maybe they had a plan. If I spawn near Toby, I'm going to purloin immediately. Mm-hmm. But one thing I definitely want to notice is that they just kind of did what you talked about. They did the big suspicious thing immediately. They didn't save it for last just because. They kind of bet a big part of the game right away.
All right. Well, Noob is telling us that I'm going to pause for a second and see if it was oh, interesting.
Look, maybe it's for Toby. I don't know. If you happen to know that for a fact, fine. But here's the thing. It actually fits perfectly with the first time the sniper cam gets a good look at the list after an immediate green purloin. Those lead to lowlights all the time. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But both timelines fit perfectly.
Yeah, hard to tell actually at that one because it could be a few different things. But anyways, back to 2 minutes. We're just going for it. We do an illegal briefcase, which is interesting. It's almost like we know we're low lit at this point.
Well, maybe you're testing it at this point because you've already gotten away with the bug, and I think you're starting to maybe suspect. I've talked about this before. The difference in how spies play between when they do something that's technically low-lightable and what's not. When you get an immediate green purloin and run to statues, you might get low lit. That's the kind of thing that produces a lot of low lights. When you then also bug and get away with it, at that point you have to be at least suspicious of that fact. It's not like a misclick at the beginning of the game, which we've seen on some casts. And the big question then is, the spy has no idea they're low lit, so will they finish? Because there's no way they could possibly have guessed that. Pofke can absolutely guess that they're low lit.
Okay, but then we have a very strange choice. We swap, and that does not. So the word I would have for that is incoherent. It does not gel with the rest of the rest of the game plan.
You don't think it's the kind of thing? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I wouldn't say it's not a kind of mission that you would do when you're low lit. I just don't know if you do it that way.
I think it's like one of the very few ways at this point you could get shot. Like, let's just
a white at least, yeah. Yeah, I'll put it this way: if you do one of the back-facing statues, then as a low light, there's a chance you're not even noticed there. It's a chance they're going to assume it's a green. They're probably not going to see the fade. I will say that I don't quite understand the swap on a front-facing statue if you suspect you're low lit.
This is interesting. Okay, so we are going to go for a silent game, it looks like. I believe this is fingerprint. It is not fingerprint, but what are we doing here?
And a loveless game. There's no seduce done.
Oh, we're just going to hard transfer.
So now it really does seem like, yeah, they suspect they're low lit. But this is pretty aggressive even for that. Because look at this. The party's not very busy right now.
Yeah. Well, okay, so interesting game. Now, I loved the start of the game where they just leaned into the game where they very well could have gotten shot because they would have been they rejected drink and went straight into the statue, very spy-like thing. But they did it so early that the sniper was still getting set up, and then they got a low light. And then I think that they could have, they had a lot of time where they could have just either seduced or banana breaded. I guess they were worried that they were highlight and they didn't want to induce a shot, maybe?
No, you're right. You're right. If you really think you're low lit, there are better ways to win this game. It's a little counterintuitive. There are 4 hardtails on the board in addition to a meaningless fingerprint.
Right. Anyway, well, the opening of the game was fantastic and aggressive, and like I will say, no time ad on this one. They did the missions they needed to do. Now that said,
when you do hardtail instead of seduce, that's a lot easier to not run out of time. At least
it's true.
Usually you run out of time literally because you die, but in this case, if you're just worried about beating the clock, yeah, hardtails can be really fast.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing is like honestly, watching these games makes me think we should bump it up to 4:30. I mean, it's not that big of a difference, but I think it needs to be the same as Modern because the fact that we ended this game with 6 seconds left, without doing the amount of hardtails that we did, the amount of quick tails we did, still, and like we were not behind on pacing. So well, I mean, so right now we can't really cast for the games that for the steps that we don't have. I would say it's almost mandatory, kind of like on Modern when it first came out, that you do a mid-game time ad, unless you're rushing.
Yeah, it can be tough, certainly. But there has been a lot of downtime in between some of these, so I don't know. There is a meaningless fingerprint, and those can add up a lot when you draw them out, for example, with a long briefcase. But you're right. I think 4:30 is reasonable to play with, especially with that sniper win rate we were talking about.
All right, well, we are moving right on up to Platinum, Urand versus Scallions. I went out of my way to choose a Urand in either Spy or Sniper, but I'm also really curious to see his Spy. Urand is a Veranda monster, and I have not played Urand on Veranda directly because I have banned it every time that I've played him. But I have played against his replays, and they are monstrous. And so I'm very curious how this goes. Let me go ahead and set up the names, but I'm very like it's strange because Urand was the only person I did well versus in this one, which was certainly mostly luck. This season I only did well versus Urand, and it absolutely saved me from relegation, which is strange. But part of that is if I played Urand on Veranda, I would have gotten destroyed, and so I'm very happy to have banned it because I really loved playing against his replays on Veranda because I would be consistently beat and flummoxed and bamboozled, but never gave him the chance. So now I'm curious to see him and like slowcast him a little bit because he's very fun to do that for.
Mm-hmm.
And then Scallions, we'll see if there's any. I'm loaded into the game. We don't have our seduction target as Orange Dress. So we are not. Oh my God, we are Orange Dress as Spy. Okay, never mind. This is fantastic. Yep. Never mind. Everything's off the table, or on the table. I don't know. I'm confusing myself because I'm so excited because this is actually not a normal Urand game. If he specifically chose an Orange Dress,
it's off the table. It's on the table. You're under the table. Ready when you are.
All right. Let me put up a scoreboard and change the names. This is great. Okay, starting in 3, 2, 1, go. So now all of a sudden this just becomes, there's going to be, like, I don't know what advice I could really get from this now. Because
now,
it
does kind of ruin the analysis because you're playing a character that's going to be inordinately watched, and in this case immediately highlighted because, for those who don't know, Scallions has this whole Orange Dress meta thing going back to the old art where Orange Dress is just a point of focus, is the only way I can put it. Well, not now, apparently, because they just got away with a bug. But yeah, a point of focus where you pick Orange Dress a lot, they're the seduction target a lot, you pay more attention to them, you highlight them, whatever. It's like a big mind gamey thing. It's been going on for years.
It has. And Scallions, while I don't know if Scallions was the original person to do the Orange Dress thing, has embraced it more than anyone else. And in the SCL matches that have been played, there's a lot of... I think the most head gamey one was Scallions versus Pwn Noob for leaning into the Orange Dress stuff. And I would have thought that Urand's kind of a straight up player. I didn't think that Urand was going to lean into it at all. I thought they would just kind of like ignore the Orange Dress thing, but they have definitely not on this map.
I mean, they might just like the bugging capability, or they might have been random and they said, well, I guess it's meant to be.
The other strange thing is, okay, so also I missed the bug because I was so excited about everything else. So I'm going to go back to the bug and just check it out. So the other thing is, like, Orange Dress is a really interesting character when you are playing against Scallions because her bug is actually fantastic. She has one of the better bugs in the game, and so it's not like you're stuck with a character that's just kind of bad at stuff. Like let's say like Boots is not the best. I'm not the biggest fan of Boots. Not the best bug animation. Really thin. Sticks her hand out a little too much. Doesn't have the best microfilm, that sort of thing. But Orange Dress has a good bug and also a really good microfilm. But is slow, obviously.
Both her bugs are good, standing and walking. And one of the reasons the walking one is good, and this is one of the cooler things about the game, is that she's very slow. This was not deliberate. A couple characters, White Dress and Orange Dress, are so slow that they can walk by the ambassador and bug without having to do like a hitch in their step. They can do it pretty much straight on. Everyone else, more or less, maybe there's a couple other edge cases, but most characters are too fast. If you walk right by and bug, you're not going to be able to time it right. You kind of have to walk around them a little bit, which looks a little unnatural. It's what people call a bug path, although sometimes bug path just means you walked by and you could have bugged, but it looks more like a bug path when you have to do that. But because these characters are slow, you have this emergent little benefit in the gameplay, just sort of like accidental gameplay depth, that their bugs are that much more powerful because they can walk by at a buggable speed.
And one more thing about the difference in their animations is White Dress and Orange Dress can also 3-cycle with whites on a middle statue. I believe they're the only ones that can do that because their cycles are so slow.
As well.
Oh,
Kane as well. Yeah, but you're right. Very, very few of them have slow enough cycles like that where you don't have to hit the greens to get through.
Anyway, so we are trying to finish here, but we're actually running a little bit low on time. Now, see, the thing is, okay. All right, so I'm going to pause here at the purloin at 210-ish. So we do grab the white purloin. I will say Uranda's practiced enough that they rip the drink away at the exact correct time, rather so that they don't start a crash. Now, obviously, if we are seen at all taking the purloin, we are screwed. But it's kind of something that happens with Orange Dress anyway. If Orange Dress happens to take a green purloin, then you just lucked out so much in this anyways, and then so you kind of had to do what Uran did. So I actually love the adaptation there. Uran really obviously wanted the green purloin, but instead we rip away the purloin, go and we gulp it immediately, which would confirm it, but we know we're high-lit. We know that if we're seen with it, we're dead.
Right, and you didn't just do it randomly either. It wasn't just mindless. You were in a spot where it's actually pretty easy to hide, gulp, get out of there. Can be a very powerful purloin spot, and the ambassador's not right next to you. So there's some reasons to think that you're going to be able to get away with that. I don't think it was just, hey, why not? This is kind of a safer than average spot to do this from.
That's a great point, and also I think it shows a little bit of Uran's familiarity with the map. Because that spot only isn't great for purloin in that, it's not super easy to see the tray. It's also, like you said, it's really close to a dump and drink spot.
And the end of red.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So there are ways. This is kind of like the failing gracefully thing. I said that about lowlights earlier and things like that, but it works in all these scenarios. Like, think about this. Plan for the white, like KCM says too. I want to hit this green, but if I don't, what's the downside? Can I still get away with it? Well, yeah, maybe in this case.
Oh, we get low-lit as Orange Dress. I guess we saw the purloin late, or maybe the banana bread and the ditch was enough. And the swap is green. So we would love to be finished with our seduction target right when it goes off. We are 99%.
Of course we are.
Now, he doesn't know this. I'm sure that Uranda's freaking out in his head right now because he wanted Queen to take it to block the statue and for him not to worry about it at all. And instead, we're going to have to do some odd pathing and whatnot to try to get in.
Yeah. There's just no indication that he's even noticed the statue swapped until about 19 seconds, though. Like, he's not even really trying to look. He's not suspicious of a swap at that point. He's not expecting a swap. Maybe because, a low light was there.
We luck out a little bit after, so we're just gonna win this game. There's almost no way that shot comes off in the second of overtime that happens. Yeah, I don't even hear a beep on that overtime. So what's also interesting is we luck out that our seduction target has a drink in that conversation circle. He was there forever, so he goes through a full idle animation, sips, and then sticks around afterwards, which we are very lucky. After he moved. We were unlucky that he moved, but we were able to make the best of it. Otherwise, Orange Dress is so slow. I guess we would have just bailed for the time ad was the only thing we could have done at that point. We didn't even have enough time to do a microfilm dump. Not as Orange Dress, I think.
Yeah, and depending on what you think actually happened in that green dress game, it might be another purloin lowlight. That's all it takes sometimes. Purloin is really powerful. Ballroom has the reputation for it, but it's not much easier to track on Veranda, and there's a lot more going on usually. And when that happens, the snipers have to do what I kind of mentioned, is they have to go, I didn't get enough information, I'm not sure enough, and you might have to take some risky lowlights to make the party manageable. The fact that it was Orange Dress that got low lit meant they must have really missed it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm also going to back up to the point at 319 and just harp on something. It's sometimes we talk about it too much, but it's just funny how it's the one that most obviously reverberates through the whole game. We get a 31% on the flirt at 316 or so, and then we I mean it takes us not hitting either green. Also, I don't know what's going on. I'm looking at 315 and I'm seeing some Total Recall Start the Reactor Quaid thing going on with Smallman and General here. Like 314 ish kind of thing. Anyway,
yikes. That's horrifying.
Yes, it is.
Not a fan.
Anyway, but that reverberates throughout the game because it's almost like when there's a 31% of the flirt, it's almost destined that it must go to 99% by the end of the game. Because the other two flirts are close enough.
The die is cast almost right away, yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead, unless you have anything else you want to mention on this game.
No, I think that's good. I think, unfortunately, another low-light game, and the Orange Dress meta kind of mucks it up a little bit, but, they did some really aggressive things. I think the only other thing I guess I would add, actually, then, is that in this case, because an inordinate amount of attention was going to be placed on Orange Dress, that actually worked to their advantage, because it's like, they're not going to get this stuff by me. But it was a crash bug, and it was a white purloin gulp hide run away and come back. Yes. Those are very aggressive things. And I think those are things that are actually maybe even more likely to get caught by someone else, because in this case, it's like, who would pick Orange Dress and do things brazenly?
Right. Yeah, and I think that Skylanes actually relies on that a little bit on their snipers.
Yes.
Because they know.
Yep, the trick of the mind game is you're not going to get a mission win by me because you're not crazy, right? But what they really do is they take an automatic highlight, but mentally maybe they're thinking of it as a free low light.
Yeah,
because nobody wants that heat.
Yeah, and if they do finish, it's not going to be from the things that are easy to track. Because like the thing is, I was going to say that Orange Dress was a bad pick for Veranda because it's one of the ones where a highlight where you're being paid attention to for no reason is one of the most disastrous maps for that. Modern and Library being the other ones, because it means you started with a highlight and people can kind of just like track you throughout the game when you're going to go do things like seduce and inspect, and then just like it just kind of like comes together. Where if you were given a spreadsheet of the facts of like what a bunch of spy or a bunch of characters had done, where it's like this many people went to statues, this many people went to all these conversations like that, you could probably find the spy relatively easily most of the time just on their movement.
Yes.
But because you kind of only figure out that they're doing that partway into them doing that, which is like how early you take the highlights on people, how early you identify the trend that eventually would show up in that data.
Yeah, it sounds like an obvious thing, and everyone technically knows this, but you need to like really internalize it because it's more significant than it feels like when you first hear it. When you're being watched, you basically can't win. It sounds dumb, but it's totally true. You win because they don't know what to look at and they have to look at a bunch of different stuff. When you actually are onto the spy and watch them, it can be amazing how spy-like they act. They are just moving around. They never stay still. It's just the intentionality is so freaking clear. You are hiding in a crowd. You really are. That is the game.
All right. Well, we are going to go to our last match, which is going to be maybe a slight preview of the finals. In the grand finals, do they still get to pick maps? I actually forget the format.
So the format for the grand finals is that there's a ban, and you do double, but you play them alphabetically, and when you get to the double, you play it twice. So this could be banned, or it could be doubled, and that's a big question because Kaylee often picks either Library, or if that's not available, Veranda. KCM knows that and has very often banned Library and challenged him on Veranda. We'll see if he mixes it up or not. So we may or may not see it, frankly. And even though Library is the standard ban against Kaylee, his numbers are better on Veranda. They're better on Sniper slightly, and they're significantly better on Spy. So I know Library has a reputation as being the Kaylee map, but I think that's wrong. I think Veranda is.
I completely agree. All right. Well, let's get it started. We are KCM as Salmon Danger and Crazy Kaylee as as Sniper. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Salmon versus Spy. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we start with Drink. We're just probably gonna get rid of it here in this conversation circle, and then we're gonna look around the party a little bit, see who's getting highlit, see where ambassador is. We probably know that our seduction target at least is highlit.
Drinking alone, not good, Salmon. That's supposed to be one of the signs, I think.
All right, so it's always interesting because with KCM, I can never, when there's a lot of camera movement, it's usually in relation to something where there's a particular thing that someone's looking for. But with KCM, or with KCM's camera movement, I can never tell if they're just like looking around and noticing a lot more than I am. Like,
yeah, he's watching a lot. I actually don't think he watches the party as much as everyone else because he's less frame-oriented than some spies. He's much more completion-oriented, so it matters less to him. But he's definitely looking around a lot. What he's eyeing right now, though, is the bug. He's trying to figure out where the ambassador is going to go.
And he gets it. Well done. Now, the thing, though, is it's in the most spy I want to bug spot that exists on Veranda. But the reason why that spot is so famous for that is because it is great. The next spot for that is actually where we're standing, but luckily we're talking during the animation.
Which is rare. The Amba passes by there less, and I actually think it's much harder to get away with. It feels like you've got some cover and it's a strong bug, but it's actually not that strong in my opinion.
Yeah, because you're going to be waving at them with one of your hands, and especially in the position that we're in right there. One of the hands would have been sticking out in a pretty bad spot.
And super visible from the standard golden ratio 2/3 thing I talked about, where the sniper kind of wants to be anyway.
Right.
And that the spot they want to be in anyway puts you at almost like a right angle to them, in which case that drive-by is much harder to see. So take the spot the sniper feels like they can see the most things, and they're right, and then find those one or two things they can't see from that angle and do those.
All right, well, we decide to go... We know that Kaylee does not buy into 3-up bookcase, perhaps. Although it is actually pretty well spaced, where I think this is actually legal.
They're close to equidistant. So like even I wouldn't pay a lot of attention to this, even though I'm half joking most of the time when I talk about it. But that's not too suspect.
All right, so we are... Okay, so after Seduce, and assuming we do statues, I don't know if we have enough time to convincingly do 2 fingerprints, so I don't think that's the play here. We are going to start our inspect, so we know that we're going to be highlight from here on out.
Ooh, pause. Yeah, where are you? What time?
Pause. 134.
Perfect. Okay, so this is exactly what you asked me before. Your seduction target is not cooperating. They entered. It was the seduction target's turn to talk, and they decided to leave rather than talk to Salmon. Oof. That's quite a rejection. That's going to sting for a while. I think it's going to be a while before Salmon's back in the dating scene. But what do? They do exactly what I kind of recommended. They slot in a Softail in its place. Seduction target didn't work. They walked away. Okay, what do I do in the meantime? I don't just waste time. I go and do another Softail. I go to inspects, just like we discussed earlier. This is the difference sometimes between Obsidian and Diamond.
Very, very true. And luckily for Salmon Danger, one of the leading dating apps is Plenty of Fish. And so he'll be able to get back in the game and be on his feet soon enough.
Oh my God. I'm not even mad. I'm not. Press play when you're ready.
All right, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
We did not work that out ahead of time, by the way. That was off the top of his head. But right, so it shows that KCM is thinking about how he wants to finish the game the whole time he's playing the game. So when Seduce doesn't work out, what slots in place of Seduce? The inspect, and look what happens. Look, he's rewarded for his planning, for his stratagem. The ST comes back and he gets the flirt done anyway, and now he just needs one more inspect visit and any other mission.
Okay, and so also we have, this is almost certainly a swap block, I think, at this point, because we are Salmon Danger, who has one of the best animations for it. So if he's going to swap, he's going to swap right now when he brings it back to his middle, but he does not. So we are going to do one more thing. It's hard to tell what we're going to do, though. I don't think we're going to fingerprint, obviously. It'd be weird to visit statue again, because we're going to be watching
Pause again. Sorry.
Yes, no problem.
Go to 50 seconds, please. Okay. So, first of all, I actually remember casting this a little bit now. And we were waiting. It was one of our live matches, I believe. And we were waiting. We were thinking exactly what you did. It seems like a swap. And we were a little surprised that he decided not to do it. It wasn't a high percentage play, but it might have been the highest percentage play. At 50 seconds, he's walking, and the ambassador's in front of him, and the ambassador's going to go into this conversation. Watch what he's going to do rather than path close to the ambassador. He's going to hitch out of the way. Go ahead and click play for like a few seconds.
Mm-hmm. All right,
he's going to avoid taking the bug path, right? What I love / hate about this is that a long time ago, I was still kind of an intermediate. and I was playing KCM, and it was ballroom. It was the new ballroom. So it was, it wasn't forever ago, but new ballroom was still new. And I was playing Seek, and the ambassador was walking towards me. And before I got to the ambassador, I hitched to the side so that I wouldn't be anywhere near them. And he shot me. And he shot me because, as he puts it, the AIs don't care if they look like they're about to bug. You looked like you didn't want to be seen near the ambassador. You looked like you were worried about being shot for a bug you weren't going to take, so you avoided the ambassador altogether. That's a spy thing. And when he said that, I think my brain doubled in size. It felt like it expanded right there in that moment. I was like, that makes so much sense, and that's why you're better than me. And especially back then, he was way better than me. He's moderately better than me today, I guess. So what's funny about that is this is the same human being doing that same thing. He can get away with it against Kaylee, and I actually think it's the right move. I think it's like, he makes that rule so he knows the exception to it sort of thing, and he's probably doing it with intentionality. But that's just hilarious to me that literally 5 years later, he's doing that exact thing he shot me for out of nowhere.
There we go. Yes, right. SpyParty has a long history, and it's funny because it's easy to remember things in SpyParty because there's so much visual memory where you probably were not thinking about that at all. But then when you saw it, all of a sudden it started rushing back to you because it was burned into your mind. Yes.
No, yeah, I did not at all go what was that thing? I went, oh my God, this is hilarious. It's KCM2. That's perfect. Anyway, we're back at 35 now, I think.
Yeah, and immediately you're like, yes, back around Obama's re-election campaign. I remember being shot for going out of the way on SpyParty map.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm at 34 seconds, so it's right when we're going to be starting this green test swap, which is very interesting. Okay. And I'm very curious if this was an intentional swap. Now, we would have died if we had swapped white for sure. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Yeah. So now the question is whether or not there's going to be enough time on the green. The funny thing is we went that was a fingerprintable statue and we didn't get the fingerprint. But we don't need it at this point. But there's going to be extra suspicion on that statue because of the fingerprint.
Yeah. I don't know. So. Actually, pause again. Sorry. Yeah. If you look around, the ambassador goes to the green bookshelf after that. This is before the patch, which changed the way fingerprints work. So the second the ambassador puts that book back, it's going to be there. What's interesting is, I wonder. Okay, so there's a fingerprintable statue. Let's say you take the fingerprint and don't swap. Okay. Can you go to the other statue next to it, kill a little time, and then go to the green bookshelf and maybe delay the swap by being around it and get the fingerprint instead? And he's staring, waiting for the swap to go off, but overtime goes off before a swap goes off because of the fingerprint. It might be too clever by half, but the thing is, I think this was the worst combination of things to do. You could swap earlier, you could try some fingerprint stuff, something, but the swap here, he's just all over.
That's a really interesting idea because it would have been one of those. It would have taken probably more planning than the amount of time we had. But I'm thinking through what you're saying though, and so if we had gotten the fingerprint, we did the green, so it would have gone into, let's say you stayed there long enough where it's going to go into pending. And then you did the fingerprint to force the overtime. We'd be waiting
before the person has picked up the pending statue. Right. And so Kaylee is camping on that. And it doesn't make sense. And then he has that it doesn't make sense moment, which throws everyone off. And we've seen it happen to even the best. We've seen it happen to Kaylee. This doesn't make sense moment. Mm-hmm. And those have been some of the most dramatic spy wins against him. So you actually need to use Kaylee's strength. You need to use any good sniper strength against them. You need to think he's going to be all over this. So what's the upshot of him being all over something? It's that if something else can actually happen simultaneously, it's not going to make sense. The narrative's not going to fit, and the shot might just be panicked. I don't know if it would have worked. I think you're right that there's not enough time there because you would have had to kill too much time and then you just time out or whatever. But I think if you had an extra 15 seconds, it's an interesting move.
No, it's a very interesting move because now I'm just in theory crafting it. What would have happened is, let's say you're able to sit near the statue. Oh, and for people that might not know this, if you green swap, the call to the swap doesn't actually activate when you put it down. It's when you leave the area. So there's a circle, basically, an invisible circle that it doesn't actually start until you leave that circle. So if you go to the statue next to the green swap, no one will come over to swap it until you leave. So you can delay the swap. So you could delay it until it starts in the pending thing, which normally would be really bad versus Kaylee. Yes. But if you had the fingerprint going, and then you could initiate the... you could initiate the overtime at an awkward spot. I think the first thing Kaylee would do is look for Toby to see if it had been a green Purloin that was stopping instead, or then possibly a green time ad, right? A green time ad, and who could have done a green time ad into some sort of other tell.
And there are just so many cool things. You can do two ways here, because on one hand, you could just, people normally do to delay the green swap is they pick up the statue next to it. That's a pretty standard way. But look at this. The ambassador is at green bookshelves. If he puts the green book back or something like that, you could hang out at that pad to possibly delay the swap if you're on the far side, which is really interesting. And I love, love, love the idea that you take a book, the fingerprint to win, you can carry that book around and begin the OT at any moment just by clicking, which is super cool and not something we see enough of.
Yeah. It's something you can plan out a little bit more with purloin on bars, bar purloin, where you could send someone over and then plan the pending out where you fingerprint and like where you're walking with a book or something like that. And it's
difficult to do for sure, though. Like there are only a few scenarios under which it actually makes sense, right? And I don't think it quite lined up here. I think if the ambassador comes to shelves a little bit earlier, you have the perfect scenario, you have the perfect storm where you could win this. But I don't think it quite lined up. It's just fun to think about those implications because one day, SpyParty player listening to this, you're going to be in a scenario like this, and you're going to want to recognize it, and you're going to want to take advantage of it, and then you're going to want to send it to us to cast.
That's right. Okay, so I'm going to start at 11 seconds and just see what happens in the rest of this game. I'm imagining Kayla's going to be on top of this, but we will see. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so now okay. It's like literally like 2 seconds after I started the guess. So
one thing you could talk about here is the sniper's positioning. We've been talking about the spy almost the entire time. Look at the replay sniper cam. Look at the way he keeps the ambassador and a sliver of the statue on screen with the zoom. He keeps just enough of the statue on, and he still has KCM on the right side. He has everything he needs right there. Not Toby. Okay, well, actually, hang on. Toby's right there. Oh, my God. Everything he could possibly want to look at other than someone swapping on the other statue or something. That's a little bit of luck, too, that the ambassador and Toby are not splitting his attention. But he does manage to keep KCM on the right side of the binoculars and a little sliver of the statue on the left. Boop. And he sees, the moment he sees that, you only need to see any part of the statue pop. He doesn't need any more than that. He doesn't need a full view.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I think that does it for our Slowcast. Is there anything else you want to say before we kick it off and start? Or, sorry, stop.
No, not too much. Just, thank you for watching, everyone. We're going to do some more of these, probably the larger venues first, because there's more to analyze, even though it means we end up complaining about pacing the whole time. But I do want to point out that as we got up, pacing was less and less of an issue. That is sort of the kind of like, that's the fundamental thing, right? That's not the trick play that we just spent 10 minutes talking about or anything like that. That's like the foundation of your spies that you can pace the game out when you need to. So if you're a newer player, you really want to get that pacing down. You want to get in the sense of making steady progress. And Veranda specifically is a really good testing ground for that. You're probably going to have trouble with Veranda. That's why you should play it more. You should get to the point where even if you're losing Veranda games, you want to be getting the seduce done and getting near the mission countdown almost every game, preferably without a time ad. If you're doing that, then you're in a really good place.
Very true. So let's see if I can remember some of the general lessons about something about eating your vegetables, but don't chew them, and then make sure that you run away from the check before the waiter brings it to you.
Yes.
And that's the way you play Veranda.
Plan your game out one way or the other. It's okay that it's going to go wrong. Have plans and have backup plans. If you want to do Softails first and a Softail isn't working out, think of the next Softail you can do. And if you don't want to do that, think of, Fingerprint. And if you don't want to do that, then think about the Hardtail. But the general lesson was definitely think about what time you're going to need before you need it. Be willing to slot in one mission for another if you're not ready, and don't be afraid of hardtails early. It doesn't actually do you any good to lose in 4 minutes instead of 4 seconds.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Warning Track, for joining me for the Slowcast. Thank you all for watching. This channel will be live tomorrow for a set of normal games, like makeup games, probably some games with some sort of implications, although I guess we've announced what the playoffs are going to be and what the tournament position is going to be. So tomorrow will be the last like normal-ish cast, and then it's going to be all championship season from there on out, I believe is the case. Is that true?
I think so. Yeah, we're going to wait and see when everyone plays, but from what I can tell, Gold and Platinum are really champing at the bit to get their finals in. So I'd be surprised if they don't get them this week and that we don't cast them almost immediately after.
Very cool. And I believe that they're in SCL announcements. It has been said... I'm just going to actually run over them real quick. So the finals for Diamond are going to be Crazy Kaylee versus KCM. Hazard match is going to be Magician versus Kletos. Platinum is going to be Ponu versus Urand. Hazard is going to be Bananaconda versus Scallions. Gold is going to be Yeesh versus Opie for the finals. And then tournament position, Wodar and Turnout 8 are going to be going in. And Royal Flush has been pushed down to Silver. So in the top leagues, they actually have like the normal, regular SCL promotion matches and hazard matches, but then everything else gets kind of it's tournament of position or choosing to promote as you would if you were the top finisher.
Diamond, Platinum, and Gold are exactly the same. You have hazard matches, promotion, championships, all that, as you mentioned. But everything below that, you can win it outright and take a free 1 division promotion, or you can enter the tournament of position, even for lower spots, second and third sometimes, where almost anything can happen. And you can jump multiple divisions at once, but you can also go down. So it's risk reward.
So in silver, bronze, and copper, each of the top finishers chose a direct promotion. So that was Dowsey goes up to gold, Chef goes up to silver, Max Edward Snacks goes up to bronze, and then below that, everybody has chosen in the first position tournament of position. And so the tournament position people will be Wodar, Turnout 8, Screwloose Pofka, Rio and Pox, Zero Doom, Icky Grifter, Kadi Ducket, Ascend Beyond, and JD105 from Obsidian, and then from Oak, Legorv Janine and Infamous Cupcakes, and then from Challenger, Jake Armstrong and Tabsies. And then we will be casting that, and that's going to be very interesting. I'm very curious about how the tournament position goes, because you can have a lot of change going on there. And also the seedings are kind of like the weirdest seedings that we're going to have, because there's so many people that are underseeded, obviously underseeded.
Right. This is going to be scary. I'm just going to say in advance, I want to defend people from like bronze and above who lose matches to Oak people sometimes. It's not necessarily the huge upset you think it is. They're really good guys.
Yes, exactly. And so it'll be interesting to see the discussions around who they think is favored, because it's hard to tell. If somebody stomps a lower division and then someone does sort of well in a higher division, it's really hard to parse out what's going to actually happen when they go head to head. So I'm going to love seeing that, and that will be coming up soon. And tomorrow is just the cast of some of the regular games, but then we will be jumping into Champion Season the week after. Again, thank you so much, Warning Track. You can find him at Twitter on SpyPartyFans.com. You can find me now at Slappy Davis on Twitter. Thank you, Warning Track. People will have no idea that this is true, but Warning Track is actually able to help me get that handle from somebody else, and now I'm no longer Slappy Prime on Twitter, and now I'm actually Slappy Davis.
Yes, I can't believe that was taken. It was our long national nightmare is over. That Twitter handle is in its rightful owner's hands.
I've never found anybody that's ever used it. I was very surprised, but yes, now it is back in my possession, and all is well. Okay, and that does it for us. Again, thank you so much. I don't know if there's anything else you want to promote or say.
Nope, you promoted me really well. Thank you. And thanks for having me.
All right. See you guys tomorrow.